What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get high enough to have a conversation with a cat and tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore.
Yes.
Yeah. I've always wanted to talk to a cat.
Don't we all?
I feel like it would be more fun to talk to a dog, though, because a conversation with a cat would probably be pretty... It'd be pretty ruthless and judgmental. You're like, oh, you're my little friend. And the cat's like, I disdain you. I don't like you at all, one bit.
Get the fuck away from
me. I
me.
wish I was like 30 pounds heavier so I could kill you and eat you while you sleep.
Don't you see me bathing here in the sun?
Yeah. Now pat my belly and be gone. Yeah, tonight we will be bringing you some Norwegian folk tales.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. We got a little bit of Christmas in there, right?
It's Norwegian.
It's Norwegian.
Everything's snowing. It's always snowing.
It's always Christmas in Norway, yeah.
Exactly.
Except for when it's spring break. Yeah. So we got some Norwegian folk tales. Yeah. Happy holidays, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So enjoy some tales here. Go ahead and take it away there, Kim. I'm just babbling over here. Someone got too high before the business. So yeah.
So it's called The 12 Wild Ducks. Once upon a time, there was a queen who went out driving. It was winter, and the snow was fresh on the ground. When she had gone only a little way, her nose started to bleed, and she had to get out of the sleigh. She couldn't handle it. It was too much.
I've got a nosebleed.
I feel like that's not the only place she was going.
So that's no.
As soon as she stood up by the fence and looked at the red blood on the white snow, she came to think that she had 12 sons and no daughters. And so she said to herself,
if I had a daughter as white as snow and as red as blood, it wouldn't matter at all about my sons. I would just raise her, teach her to grow a mighty bush.
She had scarcely uttered those words when a troll hag stood before her and said,
oh, you should have a daughter. And she'll be white as snow and red as blood, and then your sons will belong to me. But you can keep them with you until, like, the child has been christened.
How thoughtful, thank you. When the time came, the queen gave birth to a daughter, and she was as white as snow and as red as blood, just as the troll hag had promised. And so they called her Snow White Rose Red. Snow White Red Bush.
Snow White Red Bush.
There was a great rejoicing at the king's court, and the queen was so happy that there was no limit to it. But when she remembered what she had promised to the troll hag, she had a silversmith make 12 silver spoons, one for each of the prince, and then she had them make one more, so 13, and gave it to Snow White Rose Red.
Yeah, I like to think that that's the way she did it too, and it just pissed the people. Okay, we're done making
12
you those 12 spoons. Now make me one more for my daughter. You knew you had a daughter the whole time. Did like, you know you were going to get the spoon? Why didn't you just put that in with the spoon order? You're not going to get the bulk spoon discount that we gave you on the first 12.
This isn't a fucking baker's market.
A single order. Make me a baker's dozen of spoons, but I'm a spooner, not a baker.
As soon as the princess had been christened, the princes were transformed into 12 wild ducks and flew on their way. And they were never seen again. Gone they were, and gone they stayed. The princess grew up and became both tall and beautiful. Viking. But she was often so strange and sad that no one could understand what was the matter with her. One evening, the queen, too, was sad, for she must have had many strange thoughts when she remembered her sons. And so she asked Snow White Rose Red.
No.
Sorry.
Why are you so sad, my child? If there's anything wrong, then say so. If there is anything you wish, you shall have it.
And the Snow White Rose Red said, oh, I find it lonely here. Everyone else has brothers and sisters, y'all.
Yeah.
But I am so alone. I have no one. None. That is why I am so sad.
Where's our whopper?
I fucked up and I didn't write those lines for you, but right here.
But right here. You too have brothers, my child. I popped out 12 sons. By like the 10th, they were just rolling out of there.
Like
they were taken away, turned into ducks.
And then the queen told her the whole story. When the princess heard that, she had no more peace of mind. And no matter how much the queen cried and carried on, it was no use. She wanted to go away, as she felt that she was to blame for everything. And at last she left the king's palace. She walked and she walked, so far out of the wide world that you wouldn't believe so fine a maiden could walk so far.
She walked so far.
She was petty, though, like half a mile a day.
Yeah, she walked so far. How did she walk? About 1.5 miles. But the way she did it, it looked really hard. The wind caught her bush. It's all full of leaves now.
I saw a fucking bird's nest in there.
There's a bird living in there.
One day, when she had been walking a long time in the deep, deep forest, so deep, she got tired and sat down on the mound. And there she fell asleep. Then she dreamed that she walked farther into the forest until she came to a small log cabin. And there she found her brothers. All at once she woke up, and right in front of her she saw the well-trodden path in the green moss. And that path led deeper into the forest. She followed it, and after a long while, she came to a little log cabin exactly like the one she had seen in her dream.
Oh, prophecy.
When she went inside, there was nobody there. But there stood 12 beds and 12 chairs and 12 spoons and 12 of everything else.
Oh my God, they're the
cabin.
dwarves. It's Snow White and the 7 dwarves.
12.
12 ducks.
Snow White
and the 12
and
ducks.
the 12 ducks.
Rose red.
Rose bush.
Snow White. Rose red. Don't forget. Snow White, crimson bush.
SWRR. I go by soiree. That's how you spell it. SWRR.
They say her magnificent bush goes all the way up to her upper torso.
Down between her knees.
Yeah.
I've lost where I'm at.
You got lost in the bush.
There's 12 everything. When she saw this, she became happier than she had been for many years. For she knew at once that her brothers lived there. And they were the ones who owned the beds and the chairs and the spoons and every fucking thing else. And right away, she made a fire, swept the floor, made the beds, and tidied up the best she could. And when she had cooked a meal for them all, she sat down to eat, but she forgot her spoon on the table. Then she crept under the youngest brother's bed to lay down there. For some reason, we were just skipping all this.
She forgot her spoon on the table, so instead she laid under someone's bed and went to sleep.
Yeah. She had lain there only a moment when she heard a whistling and a whirling in the air, and the next instant all 12 ducks came rushing in. But as soon as they crossed the threshold, they turned into princes. They said,
"Oh, how nice and warm it is in here. Good bless whoever has made the fire and cooked such a good food for us."
And each one took his silver spoon and was going to eat.
Oh.
But when each one had taken his own, there was still one spoon on the table. And it was like the others, so they could not tell it apart from theirs. They looked at each other in bewilderment. They said,
"Oh, that's our sister's spoon over there. If she is the spoon is here, then maybe she is too. Creeping under somebody's bed, playing creeper feats."
The eldest brother says,
"Oh, if that is our sister's spoon, she is to be found in here. Oh, and she is to be found in here. She'll be killed, for she's the cause of our misery."
All this the sister heard while she was hiding under the bed. The youngest of the princes said,
"No, it would be a sin to kill her for that. It's not her fault we suffer. If anyone is to blame, it's our mother."
They started searching both high and low, and at last they looked under all the beds too. And when they came to the bed of the youngest prince, they found her and dragged her out.
I know she was flying creeper feet.
The eldest prince still wanted her to be killed, but she cried and pleaded so pitiably, saying, "Oh, please, please, don't kill me. I have been wandering for many years trying to find you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I could only save you, I would gladly give my life for you, yes?" And they said,
"Oh, well, if you will free us, you shall live. For if you want to, then you can well enough."
The princess says, "Yes, just tell me how it can be done, and I will do it, whatever it may be." The princess said,
"Oh, first, you little boopty, you must gather thistledown, that you must cut and spin and weave into cloth. When you have done that, you must cut the cloth and sew 12 caps and 12 shirts. We need no caps and shirts for work. I want them to be cool and fit a duck, too.
12 scarves, dude.
12 scarves, duck scarves, one for each of us. And while you're doing all this, you must never speak, nor laugh, nor cry. If you can do that, we are freed." Hello.
Snow White Rose Red said, "But where would I find such thistledown enough for so many scarves and caps and shirts?" The princess said,
"Oh, it's no problem. We will show you."
And they led her down to a large bog, which was full of thistledown, waving in the wind and glittering in the sun that it shone like a snow a long way off.
Uh-huh.
Never had the princess seen so much thistledown before, and right away she started picking and gathering as well and as fast as she was able. And when she had come home in the evening, and she began to card and spin it into yarn. She kept at it for a long time, and she gathered thistledown and carded, and in between she cared for the princes, cooked their meals, and made their beds. Kept house, too, while doing all this shit. Silent. At dusk, they returned home, rushing and roaring like wild ducks, and during the night they were princes. But in the morning they flew away again, and were wild ducks the whole day. But then it happened that once when she was out at the bog picking thistledown, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the last time she was to go there, the young king who ruled the country was out hunting and came riding over to the bog and caught sight of her. He stopped and wondered who this lovely maiden could be with the red bush flowing in the wind, wandering about in the bog collecting thistledown, and he asked her too.
He's been hunting ducks with scarves on.
And when he got no answer to his question, he wondered even more. And he thought so well of her that he wanted to take her home with him to the castle and marry her. So common for, she's trying to ignore you. Not saying
I like
anything.
the way this girl pays no attention to me.
She does not talk. She is perfect
well,
for court.
obviously, she wants to get married. Let me put 12 babies in you. Silence is consent.
Wow. So he told his servants to lift her up onto his horse. Snow White Rose Red wrung her hands and made signs to them and pointed to the stacks that she had worked so hard to fill with the thistledown. When the king understood that she wanted to take them along, he told the servants to load the sacks too. When they had done that, the princess calmed down, for the king was a kind and as he was handsome, and he was gentle and friendly towards her.
I've got a 6-pack of abs. Want to see it?
But when they came home to the king's castle, and the old queen, who was his stepmother, caught sight of Snow White Rose Red, she was so angry and envious because the princess was so pretty, and that she said to the king,
"Did you bring my ball moles? Did you get me those scratches from the liquor store? No, I don't think so, because I don't think you understand that this girl you brought home and want to marry is a witch. She's got to be a witch. That's the only reason she wouldn't talk. nor speak, nor cry, and she didn't laugh at any of my jokes. No matter how many times I repeated them, she wouldn't answer, she wouldn't laugh. There's clearly something wrong with her, not with my comedy.
The king paid no attention to what she said, but held a wedding and married Snow White Rose Red, and they lived in great joy and splendor. But for all of that, she never left off the sewing of the shirts. Before a year had gone, Snow White Rose Red gave birth to a little prince, and that made the old queen even more angry and envious. And when it was getting on towards night, she stole into Snow White Rose Red's room while she slept, took the child and threw it into a snake pit, and then she cut the queen's finger and smeared the blood on her mouth and then went to the king. And she said,
"Now come and see what sort of a queen you have. Hold on, let me throw this knife away real quick. Come and see what kind of a queen you've got over here. She's eating your own child. You had a baby and she just gobbled him up. Definitely don't look in the pit of snakes out back."
At this, the king was so upset that he almost wept, and he said,
"Oh, yes, it must indeed be true, since I see it with my own two eyes. Surely as I saw that well-dressed duck back in the barn. But I am sure she will never do nothing like that again. So I'm going to spare her life this time."
Before the next year was over, she gave birth to another son, and with him it went just as the first. The king's stepmother became even more angry and jealous. So she stole into the queen's room during the night while she slept, took the child, threw it into the snake pit, cut the queen's finger, smeared the blood on her mouth, and then told the king that the queen had eaten up the child too. Then the king was so distressed that he never saw the likes, and he said,
"Okay, yeah, I guess this time it seems like it's kind of continuously happening. It must be true. I see it with my own two eyes. But I'm sure she won't do that again, because I'm going to pull out next time. So I'll spare her this time, too."
Before another year had passed, Snow White Rose Red gave birth to a daughter, and to this child, too, the old queen threw down into the snake pit. While the young queen was asleep, she cut her finger, smeared the blood on her mouth, and then went to the king and said,
Now, can you hold this knife for me? Now come and see if it isn't just as I said, that your daughter, your wife's a witch over here, and she's eating another baby because she's just a baby-eating witch, and she doesn't laugh at any of my jokes.
Can you imagine giving birth completely silent? That would definitely creep me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't fucking... Oh... No. I'm sorry, I had to cut you. I was like just thinking about that suddenly. I was like, oh my God, she gave birth to 3 children.
3 children.
She lost 3 children too in a row, and she could not cry. Oh my God.
I love how quiet she is during sex.
She fucking makes no anything. Can she do an excited face?
She just lays there and just sits there and makes eye contact with you. That's way too deep.
That is the creepiest sex ever. Turn around.
Can someone throw a towel over her head or something? This is really creeping me out.
Can you imagine just doing everything, just still face?
Yeah.
Horseback riding, still
Just
face
good.
the whole time. Don't show that you're scared as fuck. This time, the young king was so grief-stricken that he could not be comforted. For now, he could spare her no longer, but had to give orders that she should be burned alive. When the pyre was ablaze and she was about to be placed on it, she made signs to take the 12 boards and stand them around her in the fire. And on them she hung the caps and the shirts and the scarves for her brothers. But the shirt of her youngest brother had the left sleeve missing, as she had not had time to finish it yet. Hardly had she done this than they heard a whistling and a whirling in the air, and then 12 wild ducks came flying overhead of the treetops, and each one took his clothing in his bill, and flew away with it. Bye.
I told you that there were well-dressed business ducks around here.
And the wicked queen said to the king,
Oh, now you can see. Let's see, she's got ducks working for her, obviously. She's a witch. Hurry up and throw her onto the fire before the logs burn up. I've got to get home and watch Jerry Springer reruns. I've got them all on VHS tape, the whole collection.
The young king says.
Never mind that. We have logs enough. The whole forest is full of wood. I'm a crazy son of a bitch, and I'm going to burn this bitch to the ground. I want to wait a while and see how this turns out.
At this moment, the 12 princes came riding, as handsome and as well-built as anyone could wish to see. Woo! But the youngest prince had a duck wing instead of a left arm.
We call him Duckwing Dan. He also still quacks.
Gosh, shut up. The princes asked,
"Oh, hey, do you like our 6-packs and our nice muscles?" Oh, yes. What is going on here? Are you building a fire?
The king said,
"My queen is to be burned because she's a witch and has eaten her own children, and by default, my children as well."
The princes said,
Oh, no, she has not eaten her children. Speak now, sister, now that you have freed us. Save yourself.
Then Snow White Redbush spoke and told them all about what happened, and each time she had a child, the old queen, the king's stepmother, had sneaked into her room during the night, taken the baby from her, and cut her finger and smeared the blood on her mouth. And the princes took the king and led him to the snake pit, where there lay the 3 children playing with the snakes and toads, and lovelier children than you could ever see in a lifetime.
She hid them in her bush.
Somehow they lived.
I had to hide them in my bush.
The king took them back to his stepmother and asked her what punishment she thought fit for one who could have the heart to betray an innocent queen and 3 such lovely children. The old queen said,
I would say, just hypothetically, I hate the idea of this crime, so anyone who did it should be tried to, probably 12 wild horses. Just a rough estimate. And then just torn to bits, just ripped into pieces. So what is my punishment going to be?
And the young king says,
Well, you kind of just gave me an interesting idea involving horses. But I shall swap them out for geese.
And so the wicked queen was tied to 12 wild horses and torn to bits. But Snow White, Rose Red, the king, and their children, and the 12 princes all rode back to her parents and told them what had happened. So there was a great rejoicing throughout the whole kingdom because the princess was freed and had freed her 12 brothers too. The end.
Except for old Quacky, who still had a duck arm for the rest of his life.
Sucks to be you.
He has half of a duck brain. Sometimes I catch him outside just picking worms out of the dirt with his face.
They have to be really careful not to gain any weight while she's making these.
I know.
You know what I mean? 'Cause that's some
I like how they come back jacked. We came out of the woods and we have been working out. Yeah.
Like one of them got a hole in its shirt, so he's just got 5 or 6 feathers sticking out of it. Yeah. What about their pants? All got duck dicks.
Duck anuses.
And duck dicks. Yeah. Those are like corkscrews. Those are fucking...
they're just Donald Ducking it. Maybe that was their logic. They're like, our day job is as ducks, and ducks don't wear pants. Haven't you seen DuckTales?
All right, story number 2.
Story number 2?
The 7th father of the house. There was once a man who was traveling. He came at last to a beautiful big farm, It had a manor house so fine that it could easily have been a small castle. He said to himself as he went through the gate,
"Oh, hey, this will be a good place to rest over here."
An old man with gray hair and a beard was chopping wood nearby. The traveler said,
"Oh, hey there. Hey, pal, how's it going? Good evening there, Father. Can you put me up for the night?"
The old one says,
"I'm not the father of this house. Go into the kitchen and ask my father."
The traveler went into the kitchen, and there he found a man who was even older, down on his knees in front of the hearth blowing on the fire. The traveler says,
"Oh, hey there, pal, buddy, friend. Good evening there. Father, can you put me up for the night?"
The old fellow says,
"Huh? I'm not the father of this house. Go and talk to my father. He's sitting at the parlor table."
So the traveler went into the parlor and talked to the man who was sitting by the table. He was much older than both of the others, and he sat shivering and shaking, his teeth chattering, reading from a big book almost like a little child. The man said,
"Hey there, I'm just gonna good evening there, Father. Can I just crash somewhere? It's getting a little repetitive."
The old man, who sat by the table shivering and shaking, his teeth chattering, says,
"The system's all rigged, I'm telling you. I'm not the father of this house, but go talk to my father who's sitting there over on the settle over there."
So the traveler went over to the one who was sitting on the settle, and he was busy trying to smoke a pipe of tobacco. But he was so huddled up, and his hands shook so that he could hardly hold the pipe. The traveler again says,
"Oh, hey there. Good evening there, Father. Can you put me up over here for the night?"
The huddled up old fellow says,
"Yeah, light my pipe for me. I'm trying to smoke this dank weed." "But I'm not the father of this house. I'm still a young whippersnapper." "Go talk to my father. He's lying on the bed, staring death in the dick."
The traveler went over to the bed, and there laid an old man, in whom there was no sign of life but a pair of big eyes. The traveler says,
Hey there. You're not dead, are you, Father? Could you put me up here for the night?"
The man with the big eyes says,
"I'm not the father of this house, but talk to my father who's lying over there in that cradle."
Well, the traveler went over to that cradle, and there laid an ancient fellow, so shriveled up that he was no bigger than a baby. And there was no way of telling if there was life in him except for the rattle of his throat now and then. The man said,
"Kill me." "Oh, good evening there, Father. Can you put me up over here for the night? Just, I've been, I'm pretty sure you're dead."
It took a long time before he got an answer, and even longer before the fellow finished it. He said, like all the others, that he was not the father of the house.
"The father, he's the horn on the wall. Kill me."
The traveler stared up along the wall, and at last he caught sight of the horn too. But when he tried to see if the one who was laying in it, when he tried to see the one who was lying in it, there was nothing to be seen but the little ash-white form that had the likeness of a human face. Then he was so frightened that he cried aloud.
Hey there, good evening, Father. You mind putting me up for the night? You spooked me and I done pooped myself."
There was a squeaking sound up in the horse like a tiny titmouse. And it was all that he could make out was a sound that meant, "Yes, my child." Then in came a table decked with the costliest dishes and with ale and spirits too. And when the traveler had eaten and drank, and came a good bed covered with reindeer hides, and he was very glad at last that he had found the true father of the house. The mythical.
The magic daddy.
Find the man on the horn.
Yeah, he's a ghost. Ironically, he's the youngest one out of all of them. Hi, yes, I'm the ghost father.
I'm from Golden Girls. Yeah. That was the thing, right? Golden Girls. Like the oldest one was actually younger than all of them.
It was the seventh father, B. Arthur.
I can't imagine staying at that Airbnb. Is that a man and a horn?
Is there a place I could charge my phone? Kill me.
Why are they alive that long?
I've lived for thousands of lifetimes. End it, please.
My wife is gone. I don't care about it. Yeah. I've had 57 dogs.
I've had 57. Yeah.
Story 3.
Story number 3.
Squire Purr.
Bear.
There was once a poor couple, and they had nothing but 3 sons. What the 2 eldest were called, I do not know, but the youngest one was named Purr.
I do not know.
When the parents died, the children were to inherit from them, but there was nothing left but a pot, a girdle, and a cat. A griddle, and a cat. The eldest, who was to have the first choice, took the pot and said, when I run out this pot, I will always have, allowed to be scraping it, so I'll never go hungry.
Scrape that pot.
The next one took the griddle for, he said, for when I run out the griddle, I'll always get a taste of oat cake. Yum.
No.
But the youngest had no choice. If he wanted anything, it would have been the cat anyway.
Yeah. Grandpa used to shit in that pot.
He said.
Well, if I loan out the cat, then I won't get anything for her. I'm sure if the cat gets a drop of milk, she'll have it to herself. But I'd better take her along with me all the same. It'd be a shame for her to wander about here and die, and then, I'd have to eat her corpse.
So the brothers set out into the world to seek their fortune, and each took his own way. But when the youngest had walked a while, the cat said, you shall indeed be repaid for not wanting to leave me behind like that old cottage to die. Now I'm going into the forest to find some strange animals. Then you're going to go up to that king's manor. You see over there, just under the hill, you see little lights. They say you have to come with a little present for the king. And when he asks who is it from, you ought to say it is from a Squire Purr.
Yeah.
Well, Purr waited long before...
Yeah, sounds normal.
Purr hadn't waited long before the cat came back with a reindeer from the forest. She had jumped up onto the reindeer's head and sat down between its horns. And she said, if you don't go straight to the king's manor, I will scratch out your eyes. And then the reindeer dared not do otherwise.
This cat's an asshole.
Sounds like my cat. Yeah. Now, when Purr came to the king's manor, he went into the kitchen with the reindeer and said,
oh, hey, I've come with a little present for, I got some shit for the king over here. As long as he doesn't look down his nose at it and shit, even though kind of if you're looking, you're looking down your nose, but.
The king came out into the kitchen, and when he saw the fine reindeer, he certainly was glad.
Oh, yay.
He said,
but my dear friend, who is sending me such a generous gift?
The boy says.
I think his name was, comes from Squire Purr.
The king says,
Squire Purr? Now, where would he be living?
For he thought it was a shame not to know such a fine man. But the boy wouldn't tell that at all. He dared not for fear of his master, he said. So the king gave Purr a big tip and bade him to greet them heartily at home and say many thanks for the presents. The next day, the cat went into the forest again and jumped onto the head of a stag. She sat herself between its eyes and forced it to go to the king's manor.
I will poop on you.
There, Paris sent with it into the kitchen again, and said he had come back with a little present for the king, if he wouldn't look down his nose at it. The king was even happier about the stag than he had been about the reindeer, and asked again who could be sending such generous gifts.
Turns out that reindeer was kind of racist.
The boy said,
it's from Squire Purr, to be sure.
But when the king wanted to know where Squire Purr lived, he got the same answer as the day before. And that time, Purr received an even bigger tip. On the third day, the cat came with an elk. So when Purr went into the kitchen of the king's manor, he said that he had still another little present for the king, if he wouldn't look down his nose at it. The king came out of the kitchen at once, and when he caught sight of that big, fine elk, he was so happy.
That's a fine-ass elk. And I need it, too. The reindeer and the stag have teamed up. They've taken over the kitchens in half the castle.
He was so happy. And a much bigger tip indeed, for it was $100. Dalers.
$100. It's $100. Dalers.
He insisted on knowing where Squire Purr lived and pried and asked questions about one thing and another. But the boy said that he dared not tell because his master had forbidden it, and that both strictly and sternly.
This cat'll fuck me up. I'm pretty confident.
The king said,
There's been Squire Purr to look in on me.
That he would do.
Okay.
But when he came out of the king's manor again to meet the cat, he said,
Well, you've landed me in a fine mess, you have. Now the king wants me to pay him a visit, and I have nothing but these rags for clothes.
Calm down, Cinderella.
Calm down, Cinderella.
The cat says, Calm down, Cinderella.
Yeah, the cat actually, calm down, Cinderella. Sick burn, cat. I gotta give it to you. That was a sick burn. Good timing.
Do not be afraid of that. In 3 days you shall have horses and a carriage made of pumpkin and such fine clothes. Yes, all that gold will be dripping off of you. Then you can certainly visit the king. But no matter what you see at that king's manor, you ought to say that everything is much finer and more splendid at home. Don't you forget that. No, Purr certainly wouldn't forget that, he thought. When the 3 days were up, the cat came with a carriage and horses and clothing and all that Purr needed. Everything was so fine and that no one had seen such things before. Then the king's... Not the king. Then he set out, and the cat sprang along ahead. The king received him both kindly and well, but no matter what the king offered him, and no matter what he showed him, Purr said that it was good enough, but what he had at home was even finer and more splendid. The king didn't like this at all, but Purr stuck to it. And at last the king grew so angry that he couldn't control himself any longer. The king said,
Fine, now I want to go home with you and give you a royal rim job. I mean, and see if it's true that everything's so much more splendid and finer, and then I'll do the rim job. But if you're lying, then woe be unto you. I'm not saying any more. I'm not, but I've been known to have people ripped apart by goose before.
Purr said to the cat. Please enjoy this break. If you like it, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Thank you.
Drawing of a cat and dog.
Repeat the ad.
Well, you really landed me in a fine mess, Kit. Now the king wants to come home with me and put his tongue up my butthole. My home. It's certainly no matter easy to find. I live in a van down by the river.
The cat said, Calm down, Oliver and company. Don't you worry about that. You just follow where I lead. Eh?
God damn, Cat, your comedic timing is so on point.
Then they set out. First Purr, who drove behind the cat, who ran ahead, and the king with all of his company. So the cat's running up ahead. All this shit. Okay, they made it very complicated. Now, when they had driven a good distance, they came to a big herd of pretty sheep with wool so long that it almost reached the ground. That sounds like animal abuse.
No, but it was well manicured. It was brushed out.
Yeah, I think it was.
Straightened. They used hair straighteners.
They look like silk Yorkies.
Yeah.
The cat says to the shepherd that is watching that flock of sheep, if you say that this herd of sheep belongs to Squire Pear, when the king asks you, you'll get this silver spoon. She had taken the silver spoon from the king's manor. He'd do it gladly.
Yeah.
So when the king came...
I'm broke. I'll totally do that.
So when the king came, he said to the shepherd,
now, I've never seen such a big herd of sexy sheep. The hair is just so long and flowing. Who owns them, my little lad?
The boy says, oh, it's Squire Pear's to be, sir. In a little while, they came to a big, big herd of fine brindled cows. They were so glossy they shone. The cat says to the shepherdess, if you say that this herd belongs to Squire Pear, when the king asks you, you can have this silver ladle.
Ladle.
For the cat had also taken the silver ladle from the king's manor.
This cat with all this silverware, just hauling a bag of silverware.
The shepherdess says, "Yeehaw, Glass, gladly."
Gladly.
So when the king came, he was quite astonished at the big, fine herd. For such a beautiful herd he had never seen before. He asked the shepherdess, who owned those brindle cattle there. And the maiden said, oh yeah, it's Squire Pear's for sure.
For sure.
They traveled a little further, and then they came to a big, big herd of horses. They were the most handsomest horses anyone ever saw. Big and fat, and 6 of each color, red, white, and black.
That horse is thick with 2 teeth.
The cat says to the herder, if you'll say that this herd of horses belongs to Squire Pear, when the king asks you, you can have this silver goblet.
Fucking goblet.
She had also taken the goblet.
Also taken a goblet
from the
7
king's
gold
manor.
bars, a chair, 2 plates of food.
Why is there a broken teapot in here? Was it originally together?
Yeah, she's just dragging it down the street.
Is that where my nephew went?
Yeah.
Do you have my nephew?
Take this. It's the nephew of the king.
He will play you handsomely. Yes, he would do that all right, said the boy. So when the king came, he was greatly astonished over the big, fine herd of horses, for he had never seen the likes of such horses, and he said so. So he asked the herder whom these red, white, and black horses belonged to. The boy said, the Squire Pear's, to be sure.
Squire Pear.
Now when they had journeyed a good distance further, they came to a castle. First there was a gate of brass, and then one of silver, and then one of gold. The castle itself was of silver, and so splendid that it hurt the eyes, for the sun was shining full on it when they arrived. They went in, and then the cat told Purr to say that he lived here. Inside the castle was even more splendid than the outside, for everything was made of gold. Chairs, tables, benches,
so shiny.
The pillows, the fucking mirrors, every fucking thing. It was
everything's
just
a
gold.
mirror. Yeah.
And when the king had gone about and looked at everything, both upstairs and down, he was quite ashamed. The king says,
After examining your downstairs, I see your penis is larger than mine. Yes, that seems to be it. Squire Pear has everything better than I do. There's no use denying it. Now get your bunghole over here. Time for the royal ribby.
And then he wanted to take his leave, but Purr baited him to stay and eat supper with him, and that the king did. But he was sour and grumpy the whole time. While they were sitting at the table, the troll who owned the castle came and knocked on the gate. The troll shouted,
"Hey, who is here eating my food and drinking my meat like a swine?"
As soon as the cat heard him, she ran out to the gate. And the cat said, "Witty be it, and I am telling you what the farmer does with his winter rye. First, the farmer plows his field, yes? And then he spreads out manure. It's the manure. And then he plows it again." Just then the sun rose.
So you're saying I should fart on it? I should have farted in his mouth in the middle of that rib job?
The cat's telling the troll this. I'm fucking with you.
Tell you a piece of wise advice. If you go to Poop's house, you may get some poop on you.
And the cat says to the troll again, "Look around you and see a glorious, beautiful maiden behind you. She is naked." And so the troll turned, and when he caught sight of the sun, he burst. The cat says to Squire Pear, "Now everything here is yours, and you must chop off my head at once. That is the only thing that I demand for what you have done for me." Squire Pear says,
"No, I don't want to do it. That's weird."
The cat says, "Yes, if you don't, I will scratch out your eyes."
Jesus, you're a violent cat.
Well, then, Squire Pear had to do it. Unwilling though he was, he chopped the cat's head off. But at the same moment, she turned into the loveliest princess anyone could wish to set eyes on.
Oh,
and
hey.
Squire Pear fell head over heels in love with her.
So let's just pretend you didn't watch that guy just go full tonguey groove in there.
Were you watching me all those times?
Were you watching me all those times?
Me and Bessie the cow?
It's weird that you used to sit in my lap while I took shits.
You used to peep in on me every time.
I've cleaned your shit out of a box for the past 7 years.
Most of my childhood.
Yeah.
How old are you?
You would make eye contact with me.
You brought me dead things.
Yeah, you put your butthole in my face so often. They used to call me Pink Eye Pear.
Better than E. coli Eugene.
Yeah. That's my brother, the one with the poop pot. Anyone want a pot of soup? Gene, everyone knows your dad used to shit in that pot.
What about them oatcakes?
Is that why my stomach's all upset and I've been shitting blood?
Oh my, you definitely should see a doctor. The princess says, "Yes, other this is mine before, but the troll there, he bewitched me. So I had to be the cat at your parents' hut. Now you must do whatever you wish, whether you want me as your queen or not. That is fine, I do not care, but I kind of want your pussy with me. For now, you are king over this whole realm." And oh yes, it just could be that Squire Pear wanted her as a queen. So there was a wedding and a feast which lasted 8 days, and then I wasn't with Squire Pear and his queen any longer, and like that's the truth. The end.
The truth. I had to bounce early.
As just a man walking away. I wasn't there, really.
I had a thing. I had to take off.
Had nothing to do with the rest of the story. I mean, the other pictures do.
Yeah. I love it when stories end like that. It's like, and I was there for most of it, but I kind of had to bounce. Yeah, there was like 12 of us in that cave when he got that rim job, and a lot of us just kind of bounced.
There was a talking cat.
They didn't hold up the curtain or anything.
How did nobody have anything for
the
a
wedding
talking
was
cat?
really weird. She insisted on sitting in his lap the whole time. Refused to wear clothes.
She still licked herself.
She licked herself.
Spread up in the air.
She's just sitting there.
I can lick my own butthole. So I got one more quick one. This is a quick one. The boy with the beer keg. There was once a boy who had long served a man up north in the Dover Mountains. This man was a master at brewing beer. He was so fantastically good that the like of it was nowhere to be found. When the time came for the boy to leave and the man was to pay him the wages he had earned, he would have nothing but a keg for the Christmas beer.
A keg of Christmas beer.
It's like euphoria here.
It's a Christmas miracle. Yeah, it's a seasonal beer.
When he had got it and set it out with it and carried it both far and long. But the longer he carried the keg, the heavier it grew. And so he started looking about for anyone to see if anyone was coming that he could drink with them. With that, there could be less beer in it and the keg would grow lighter. After a while, he met an old man with a great beard. The man said,
"Good day."
The boy says,
"Well, good day yourself."
The man says,
"Where are you off to?"
The boy says,
"I'm looking for someone to drink with me so I can make my keg lighter."
The man says,
"Can't you just as well drink with me as with another? I've traveled far and wide, so I'm both tired and thirsty."
The boy says,
Totally, let's pop some back, old man. Let's get trashed. So I can, but where do you come from? What sort of man are you?"
The man says,
"I'm Providence, and I come from above, I do."
The boy says,
"No, I don't like that. It sounds kind of preachy. I won't drink with you. We make such a distinction between folk in the world and dole out justice so unequally that some become rich and some poor. And no, get the fuck out of here, God. I don't want to drink with you."
And he trudged off again with his keg. When he had gone a little bit further, the keg again became so heavy that he didn't think that he could carry it any longer unless someone came up that he could drink with, so that there would be less beer in it. Well, then he met an ugly, skinny man who came rushing along at a fast clip. The man says,
"Good day."
The boy says,
"Good day yourself."
The man says,
"Where are you off to?"
The boy says,
"Oh, I'm looking for someone to drink with so I can lighten my keg."
The man says,
"Can't you just as well drink with me as with another? I've traveled both far and wide. Those are separate things. And a drop of beer will do good in my old carcass."
The boy says,
"Totally. Let's get drunk. Yeah, but what sort of fellow are you and where do you come from?"
The man says,
"Me? I'm known well enough. I'm the devil and I come from below, I do."
The boy says,
"Where are you going?" Oh. Did I flip it the wrong way? Yeah, I did. Look at that. It all comes back around. Nah. You only plague and torment folk whenever there's any misery afoot. They always say it's your fault. I don't think I want to drink with you. Get lost, devil."
So he walked far and farther than far again until his beer keg had grown so heavy that he could no longer carry it. He started looking around again to see if anyone was coming that he could drink with so that the keg would grow lighter. Well, after a long time, another man came along, and he was so dried up and skinny that he was out and out miracle that he hung together. The man said,
"Good day."
The boy says,
"Good day yourself."
The man says,
"Where are you off to?"
The boy says,
"I was going to see if I could find someone to drink this keg with me for a bit and make it lighter. It's getting too heavy to carry."
The man says,
"Can't you just as well drink with me as with any other?"
The boy says,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but who the fuck are you?
The man says.
They call me Death.
The boy says.
Okay, I'll totally party with that. That sounds like it's going to be fucking wild, man. Let's get tore up.
He put down the keg and started tapping the beer into the mug and said,
you're a worthy man, dude. You know, I really like you. We're friends now. You make everyone alike, both like the rich and the poor. They all everybody dies, bro. That's some deep shit.
So he drank with him, and Death thought it was a glorious drink indeed. And the boy liked him as well. They took turns drinking so that the beer went down and the keg grew lighter. At last, Death said,
hold my legs so I can do a kickstand. I've never known a drink that tasted so damned good. Or did me so good. As this here beer you've given me, I feel brand new. Thank you so much for it.
But after pondering for a while, he said that the keg would never become empty no matter how much they drank from it, and the beer that was in it should turn into magic medicine so that the boy could make the sick well again, better than any doctor. And then he said that when he came into one who was sick, Death would always be there and appear to him. And as a sure sign, when Death sat by the foot of the bed, he could save the sick with a health-giving drink from his keg. But when he sat at the head of the bed, then neither advice nor medicine would keep Death at bay. The boy was soon renowned, and he was summoned from far and wide, and he helped multitudes back to health, for whom there had been no hope. All this from a keg of beer. When he had came in and saw where Death was sitting, he foretold either life or death, and he was always prophesied correctly. He became both rich and powerful, and at last he was summoned to a king's daughter in a land far away. She was so dangerously ill that no doctor believed he could save her, and so he was promised everything that he could wish and ask for, if only he could cure her. When he came into the room where the king's daughter lay, Death was standing by the head of the bed. But he was dozing and nodding, and while he did, she felt better. The doctor said. That was really the boy.
Boy, Dr. Boy, that's my name now. This is a question of life or death, and indeed there is no hope of recovery if I see correctly.
But they said that he must save her, even if it should cost both land and kingdom. So he looked at Death, and as he dozed off again, he signaled to the servants to turn the bed around in a hurry, so that Death was sitting by the foot. And as soon as this was done, he gave her the healing drink, and she was saved. Death said,
now you've cheated me. We're not homies anymore.
The boy says, boy doctor.
Dr. Boy here. I had to if I was to win land and kingdom.
Death said,
that won't help you now, because your time's up. You belong to me now.
The doctor boy said.
Dr. Boy here? Yeah. Well, if it has to be, then let it be so. But surely you'll let me say the Lord's Prayer first.
Yes, that he could do. But he took good care not to say the Lord's Prayer. He said everything else but except for Our Father. Never came to it from his lips, and at last he thought he had cheated Death once and for all.
Ha-ha, Dr. Boy, cheater of death.
But when Death thought it had dragged on long enough, he went in one night and hung up a large board with the Lord's Prayer on it over the boy's bed.
I thought he just hung the boy. He went in and he just strung him up, and it's pretty dark.
He put a board up there that had the entire Lord's Prayer on it. And when the boy woke up, he started saying it and didn't really come to his senses until Amen. But then it was too late. The end. Good day. I hope you all enjoyed that.
Tune into his comic, Dr. Dead Boy.
Or he tries to cure the underworld.
He tries to cure the underworld.
You got zombies?
What seems to be the problem? I died 100 years ago. Well, that sucks. Dr. Boy here, and I'll get you in order. What type of medical degree do you have? I don't. I just drink a lot of beer.
Right?
It's magic
That's
beer.
all it is. Works better than Viagra.
Better than Viagra.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed. Like, subscribe, share. Find us on Twitter.
Find us on Twitter at Howley, HAOLE _boys, BOYS. Find us, shout at us, be like, hey, I listened.
I think we have some Facebook too.
Yeah, we have a Facebook, Howley Boys Productions.
Find us there too.
Find us there. Find us Instagram. We're not very active on Facebook and Instagram, but you can find our store, find our podcast where you found it.
Wherever you need to find it.
You already won at that game. You can check one off this list we're giving you of things to do.
Right.
Yeah. Tell your friends. All of our advertising is word of mouth. Yeah. So, you guys who listen, guys and gals and peoples, we love you all.
And we're doing this for free. So.
And we appreciate you.
Yeah.
So let us know. Find us and be like, hey, sucks to suck, loser.
I know, for real. Is that you?
Is that you? Oh, where's our... You brought a Whopper?
Right?
Yeah.
I carry one of my
I carry a Whopper with me anywhere I go. 24/7, I've got a Whopper ready.
Your kid's throwing a tantrum, I'm right behind you pressing that button.
I also got a rim shot queued up. Anytime I fall, it's not tragic.
Throws everyone off.
I think I twisted my back. Hey, now it's a funny joke. No, but really. Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Join us next week. Happy holidays.
Indeed.
Happy New Year. All that shit. Look for our Twitter because we're gonna start putting out some polls. I'm gonna put out a couple polls for people to poll and tell us what stories you guys want to listen to.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to know. Also, if you want us something specific, drop it in the comments. Both places have comments. So Apple Music,
all of it,
Good Pods, all those places. You can just be like, "Hey, fuckers," and we'll be like, "Hey, fucker." Yeah.
Get some stickers too.
Yeah, get some stickers.
Right.
Bye.